All right, all right, all right. 93, 93, 93. We back in here. I'm on usrenew.com. Y'all already know. You get the background music. All right. We back in here. What's up, back from hiatus? What's up, Josh? Y'all probably hear that. I need to censor that, right? We don't need to be hearing that shit. All right. What's up, Dank Wizard? Much love, Callie. Much love, Callie. What's up, AK? What's the deal? What's the deal? What's the deal? All right, like I told y'all last time, I'm about to go. I'm about to go crazy now. I'm about to make more mainstream topics. I'm about to risk getting the channel deleted. What's up, Immortal72 93? I'm about to risk getting the channel deleted. And it is what it is, honestly. It just is what it is at this point. I don't have anything to lose. So fuck it. Alright? So y'all, I'm telling y'all that straight out the door. So I know we be on our spiritual shit, but today is not the day. It's about full demon time, full demon mode. Right? It is what it is. Yep. I'd rather speak the truth than just, be on bullshit. So it is what it is. However, I'm kind of just saying that it ain't that serious. It ain't. That's why I had to. You see, if you look at the title, I did it real strategic. I got to be strategic about it. So yeah, if I really didn't care, I would just put the title. But you see, there's a lot of. I gotta speak in code at this point. Not that I have to title it in code, not speak in code, but I have to, I have to be real strategic with that. So they done already gave me a strike. So I already have a strike for medical misinformation from months ago. So I already got a YouTube strike. So I got to just move very strategically, right? So it is what it is. So I can say whatever I want. I just have to be strategic about it. It is what it is. All right. So the reason why I'm making this video now, because I just became aware that YouTube is now censoring content speaking about abortion. Meaning anything that they label as misinformation or the promotion of any type of alternative sources. 93 Chief. any type of alternative sources. So that means for COVID, abortion, and it was one other thing. One other thing. Hold on, I have notes. It was one other thing. Oh, yeah, there you go, baby formula. So any misinformation dealing with abortion, COVID, or baby formula will be censored or completely removed from the website. Now, of course, I already knew about the COVID because I got a strike because of that. So I already knew that, but I did not know that they were applying the same rules to baby formula and it's like every time I try to be professional, it's not working. I'm like, abortion, baby formula, COVID, any type of misinformation is going to be censored, meaning they're not going to promote it. So most likely this video is not going to get any push from YouTube. It's not going to get any promotion just because of the content itself, because they're trying to rid itself of misinformation according to official sources. Meaning if you have information that is contrary to the official sources, like the medical community and all that, what do they call the WHO, right? The WHO or the CDC. If any of your information is contrary to those sources, then it's either not going to be promoted or it's going to be straight up deleted. Now, what's the big deal about this? Like, what is the importance of this? Like, why does it matter? Why should it matter? Of course, we already knew YouTube is corporate and commercial already, so that shouldn't be news to anyone. However, the reason I felt to make the video is it's really like I really don't have anything against YouTube, honestly. So I'm not on that bandwagon either. So it ain't about boycotting YouTube. I'm not even promoting, okay, we need to get the information from somewhere else. I don't really care where you get your information from, as long as you know what's real and what's fake. And I don't really care about none of that. However, the title was also called monkeypox because monkeypox has just been declared as a global pandemic. So that's another thing that's going on. So monkeypox is officially a worldwide pandemic right underneath COVID. However, you see they are being very sneaky in how they are promoting it. What I mean by that is, according to official sources, this whole ordeal about monkeypox is mainly occurring within the gay and the trans community. And because we are in America, we know that that is a heavily protected community. The LGBTQ plus community, that is a heavily protected community. So most people, if you say anything crazy about that community, they're not going to take that lightly. So this is why we're kind of tiptoeing around, with this whole monkeypox, because they don't want to offend people. So they're not going to straight up tell people, okay, maybe you should stop having gay sex. They're not going to tell people that because that would be quite offensive. So that's why, again, I'm getting all this from alternative sources. This is not from American news. This is not from Google News. This is not from any American outlet. I have to go to foreign outlets to even get this information in its authentic state. Because whenever I try to get this information from American sources, it's always mixed and diluted and tampered with. It's always this extra layer of defense because that it is a protected community, so they're not going to say it like that. But in other countries who don't necessarily give a fuck about gays, they're anti-gay, so they don't give a fuck. They just outright say it because they don't care about that shit. They're like, we don't like that shit anyway. So they just say it how it should be said instead of trying to tiptoe around it. So this is what I'm seeing a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of either misinformation or propaganda from the West, as I've been speaking about, because of everything that's going on. We are moving towards a multipolar economy in terms of the West will no longer be the top dog. And we will no longer be the top dog because of what's going on in Ukraine. We're not going to be successful in these undertakings. How do I know that? Look how much money we have invested into the Ukraine situation. Millions and billions of dollars have been invested into what's going on in Ukraine, and it doesn't seem to be working. Just look around. It ain't just me saying it. Does Ukraine seem any closer to victory because of all this money we have been pumping into this war? When is the last time you read about Ukraine actually dominating the battlefield? They're not. And they're getting all these weapons from all these different countries, all this money, and they're still not winning. But we are the biggest investors. So yes, there's other places sending weaponry and money, but we are the biggest investor, we as in America. But you see, it's not necessarily getting them any closer to victory. If anything, I really just read an article about the U.S. is actually concerned about Zelensky's safety. Zelensky as in the president of Ukraine. We're actually concerned about his safety. Why the fuck would we be concerned about his safety when we're giving we're giving the country billions of dollars. But we're still concerned about his safety because we are not winning. So that means after all of these sanctions that have been placed on Russia, so you see, that's a whole nother factor. So not only are we supplying the weaponry and we're giving them all this money, the whole EU, the NATO, not the whole EU, NATO has also put sanctions on Russia to cripple the economy, and even that didn't work. So we have all these sanctions and it's not working. We're doing all that we can to stop Russia, and it's not working. There is no information that you will read that lets you know that, okay, well, Russia is going to bend to all this pressure we're trying to put on Russia. It's not working. It's not working because they have been ready for quite some time. They didn't just do this haphazardly. They have already masterminded their plan, and that's why it's going according to plan. They don't give a fuck what's going on because they have already plotted. It's us who's just jumping out of the bandwagon. We're jumping all over the place. Okay, we need to give them more money, more this. And so we don't have a long-term plan because we're just thinking about dominance. We just want to remain dominant. So we're going to put as much money, we're going to invest as much money and resources as we can to remain dominant. But unfortunately, the time has come. It don't matter how much money. And you see, we're actually hurting more than the Russians. Imagine that. We are hurting more. But we're supposed to be putting the sanctions on them. We're supposed to be the winners, but it's us that's hurting more than them. So it's going to be us that has to pay for all this, and it's going to be us that's fucked over it. It's going to be us in a recession, trying to win a war that we simply cannot win because we are just too arrogant, too big-headed, and we just will not, we will not accept defeat. And it's going to backfire. It is backfiring because, again, we have made no real advancement in this Ukrainian war. And we're just supplying with all this cash. And anything we can give them, we're giving them, and we're not making any advancement. We are no closer to victory than when we started back in February. Well, when the Ukraine conflict happened in February of the 24th of February. Ever since that time, we have made no advancement. Kind of, little wins here and there, but we have not been dominating the battlefield. One of the issues, because again, I've been doing all this research, one of the issues is Ukraine is getting all these different weapon systems from all these different countries, and it's kind of clashing because all these weapon systems require a different set of training. So when you get American weapons, you got to train the soldiers to operate that weaponry. Then when you get weapons from other countries, it's a whole different system, and they don't parallel. Well, not parallel. They don't blend. Because, parallel is like right. A parallel is not two lines crossing. They're like just on the same wave, but they don't cross. So all of this weaponry requires training, and they don't blend. So even though we're giving them all this weapon and all this money, it still requires separate training. So it requires separate units. Because every Ukrainian soldier don't know how to use every single system of weaponry from every different country. So what's going to happen is you're going to have different soldiers using different weapons in different environments and different situations. So it's becoming highly complex. That's another reason why they're falling behind, because when it comes to Russia, they are completely in sync. Again, nobody's going to say that, but that's the reality of it. Russia is in sync. They know what the fuck they're doing. They are coordinated 100%. Versus Ukraine, they're all over the place getting all type of money, and it's not coordinated. So how do you expect them to win with a lack of coordination? Because again, we're just so used to throwing money everywhere because we just have the money to throw everywhere. We're just so used to throwing money, but all we got to do is look at our own country. All we do is throw money around, but we see what's still going on in New York, Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, so on and so forth. We see what's going on in Atlanta. We can't even take care of our own issues here. We can throw money at it, but the money just gets, pocketed, as we know. That's why it's corrupt, because we already understand they're not really trying to solve the issue. You think they are trying to help black people stop killing each other? Why would they stop a situation that they created? See, people don't go back far enough. We're just so caught up in a moment. We like, okay, well, they're going to actually do something. Well, do you really expect them to do or to fix an issue that they caused in the first place? If they had any interest fixing the issue, it would have never started in the first place. So they have no interest in helping anything. So America doesn't give a fuck about its own people. What makes you think they give a fuck about people in Ukraine? The only concern that America has is getting Russia off of the map, because Russia is the only thing that's standing in the way. Well, not the only thing. It's actually China as well. Our biggest threat, according to America, is China. But because now China and Russia are, I don't want to say they're on the same team, but they're on the same team. So now that China and Russia, and now Russia is getting allies in the Middle East as well, not the Middle East. Yes, I guess it is the Middle East, yeah, because Russia would be considered the Far East with China. So Vladimir Putin just visited Iran, I believe, and now they're getting support from the Middle East. Because we didn't, you know what we did in the Middle East? We completely fucked them over, so they're not going to be on our side. When we're still in Syria right now, illegally, but they're not going to tell you that. What do I mean? America is in Syria right now illegally. We have American soldiers in Syria right now, and they're not supposed to be there. But you know what? When we get the information to us, we say that we're there because we're trying to take out ISIS, the ISIS leaders. That's the word they keep throwing around. ISIS, 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 ISIS. We need to be in Syria because we want to take out ISIS. But we're there illegally, and you know why we're there? Because we're there for the resources. We're there for the oil, all these resources. But you're not gonna hear that on American news. You will never hear that. I didn't hear it, and you're not gonna hear it. You got to go to the foreign news outlets, so they're going to let you know what's going on in their country, what the fuck they got to lie for. Like, yeah, America is here right now illegally, and we can't do shit about it because if we try to take out those soldiers, America is going to come fuck us over. So they can't really do nothing about it because they know the consequences. It's not that they don't have the power to. They just know, okay, yeah, if we wipe these motherfuckers out, it's going to create a bigger problem. So what we're doing is we're behaving like leeches and parasites, raping and pillaging the people and the resources, which shouldn't be news to anybody. We're just very good at covering it up because that's just the nature of colonization. You're not just going to let the people know, okay, I'm about to shoot everybody in the head and there ain't nothing you can do about it. We're not going to approach them like that. We're going to approach them like we want to do business, and we're going to fuck them over in the long run. That's how we do it. That's how the West does it. So that's why, so we're never going to be straightforward. We're going to be indirect with sinister intentions. So ever since YouTube has become commercial, that's why we're seeing more and more censorship. And because of Roe versus Wade, now they don't even want people talking about abortions. I don't even know if I spoke about this before. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But the reason why this is even a thing is because they do not want you getting an abortion from alternative sources. Meaning, if you don't go to a doctor in which was certified by the state, you are not legally conducting abortions, which will make it illegal. However, we know, well, maybe we don't know. Before you were able to get a medical procedure to get an abortion, you had to make it happen yourself with the help of the earth. Meaning there are herbs that trigger abortion. Because once again, how do you think abortions was happening before they were being done by doctors? We were able to conduct it ourselves within our own communities. You had community doctors who were able to do these things, but we didn't have any choice. It was a time where you were not able to get an abortion, especially the communities of color. You were not even allowed to. That's why you had a fucking Roe versus Wade in the first place, to make abortion available to all women on a federal level. That's the reason why that had to happen in the first place, because they couldn't do it. It was not federally available. So that's why that happened in the first place. So now that it is overturned, of course, women are going to look for alternative ways to have abortions if that's what they want to do. You can't go to the doctor no more in certain places. So instead of having to travel to a different state, it's just a lot more simpler to, you can say, go to the witch doctor. See, we don't want to talk about that though. We don't want to talk about those witch doctors. We don't want to talk about the shamans, because those were the people we had to go to when we couldn't afford to go to doctors. We had to go to the community doctors because that's all we had. So once that became federal, Roe versus Wade, once you were allowed to get an abortion no matter what state you was in, you know what happened to those shamans and those witch doctors and those midwives? They could no longer support themselves. So what they had to assimilate with the system like everybody else, because they can no longer make money. Why go to the shaman? Why go to the witch doctor when you can just go get a medical procedure now? So it made them obsolete. Remember, this occurred in the 70s. The whole Roe versus Wade was originally occurring in the 70s, 1973. That's when all this was going down. So this was a time where you still had people who were into the ancient arts, who knew how to heal by utilizing the properties of the herbs and the plants. So you still had people who knew those sciences because it was passed down from generation to generation. And once Roe versus Wade occurred, that died. So you see, it was only in effect for 50 years. Roe versus Wade has only been in effect for 50 years. So now that they overturned it again, now we're left in a situation where we don't have the ancient arts anymore. It's only a handful of people who even know how to conduct those procedures safely. We don't have an abundance of witch doctors and people who just understand medicine and science, who operates on a community level. It's not too many people like that around anymore, because they had to assimilate into the system like everybody else. So you see, this was all a plan from the beginning. The plan was to destroy the community. So now we're going way beyond just, keeping fathers out of the household. That's common knowledge. With the welfare and all that, we already know about that. But what we didn't realize is the whole community was being targeted on every level, not just on a household level, on every level, on a medical level, an economic level, a religious level, a spiritual level. We got attacked from all sides. And the only thing we did about it is assimilate with the system. So now that all these things are now rising up at the same time, you think it's a coincidence that all of these things are happening at the same time? So not only are we dealing with COVID, now we're dealing with monkeypox. Not only are we dealing with monkeypox, now we're dealing with a whole fucking war that we're funding. And now women can't get the medical procedures that they felt that they were guaranteed to get. And then there's no one else to go to because all those people don't exist. So we're just left looking stupid as usual, putting our trust in the enemy as usual. And we wonder why we keep getting fucked over, because we keep putting trust in the enemies. For whatever reason, we don't realize that the government is being ran like a secret society. That's what's truly going on. What I mean by that, meaning none of those people in government will have an issue getting an abortion. If you are a part of government, you're not going to have an issue. All the issues that the public has, you don't have within the government because they operate like a secret society. So it's going to continue to happen. So are people just going to magically wake up? No, I don't give a fuck how woke people think they are. Why aren't they talking about this? You're not going to hear no woke person talking about this. So that just goes to show you what the fuck that means. No woke person is talking about anything I speak about on this channel at all. So what the fuck does woke really mean if you're not speaking about the original sciences of the people? How to be self-sufficient, how to do for yourself. What are you actually pushing? If it ain't about do for self, how are we being useful or helpful to anybody? If we're not creating jobs. if we're not in control of our own resources, let alone our own body? We're not even in control of our own body. And that's where we go into monkeypox. All motherfuckers have to do is just stop fucking. But that's too much. That's too big of a sacrifice. Just keep your fucking dick in your pants. But that's too much to ask for. Because you see, people keep fucking. And now this keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now it's a fucking pandemic. Because we have no sexual discipline. And we as a collective, I'm not speaking about on an individual level, because a fucking pandemic doesn't happen without the collective being on bullshit. So that means the majority is on bullshit. Which we saw in COVID. Let COVID be a lesson of how the collective really feels. People were still doing shit. When thousands of people were dying every single day, we were still out here trying to be normal. The last thing people wanted to do is stay in the house. You know why people didn't want to stay in the house? Because we don't even get along with the people in our household. It's not hard to figure out. If we actually got along with the people in our household, people would stay the fuck home. But because we are so used to being outside the household, people can't wait to go to work. People can't wait to go to the bar. People can't wait to hang out with their friends. The last thing people want to do is stay their ass put. So we're doing it to ourselves. So instead of fixing the issues in our own households, so that you don't have to worry about going out and catching COVID, you don't have to worry about sleeping around and catching monkeypox, because your household is good. You ain't worried about none of that. So what this is really showing is we are being destroyed from the inside out. None of this would be going on if our households was on point. We would not be going outside trying to be in the faces of other people, looking for anything, whether you're looking for sex, you're looking for money. You wouldn't be going outside of your household, outside of your own, trying to gain anything. But we see that's what the world is all about. We need to go out in the external, and we try to go out in the external and solve our issues. And you see what it's doing is kicking us in the ass every time. And it's just more shit piling on top of more shit. So we had already been through all this COVID, and now it's a fucking how does this happen? How do you just get over a fucking pandemic and now another one occurs? Within 2 years, COVID popped off in 2020, and we in 2022, and there's another fucking pandemic. Now this one is sexual though. See, COVID was airborne. COVID, you know, if you're just in people's face. So that already let us know that we just don't know how to stay out of people's face. Now monkeypox, we don't know how to keep our fucking hands to ourselves. All that's a result of not having any discipline, spiritual discipline. Everybody's gonna claim that they have some type of physical discipline. All the way till the gyms had to shut down, right? It was one time where you couldn't even go to the gym. So a lot of people lost their discipline because they wasn't even able to go to the gym, but you don't need to go to a gym. You see, all this is peeling back the layers of what's really going on. People went to the gym because they wanted to be in other people's face. They wanted to be amongst other people and other people watching them. You know what I mean? People going to the gym looking for fuck buddies. This is what actually goes on once we fuck just getting healthy. You don't need a gym to get healthy. You don't need a gym to work out. You don't need, but it's a social thing. We have no social discipline. People cannot stand just to be in the house. They need to be seen. People just need to be seen. They need to run their fucking mouth and not saying a goddamn thing. Well, this porn is not enough, is it? Huh? It's not enough to just watch some pornography. That's just so satanic and wrong. You see how they fuck us up? They're gonna let you say that that's a whole fucking word. You can be a porn addict. But what would you rather be? Would you rather be a porn addict or catch fucking monkeypox and catch fucking COVID? Threatening your whole life. What harm are you doing by watching pornography? Well, according to the medical people, it destroys the relationships between men and women. That's what they say. It starts to give you unrealistic goals. Like, you don't know how to get hard for regular women because you gotta, if a woman isn't looking like a goddess, Amazon, then your dick don't even get hard. That's what they say. That's what they say. So they say that you need to actually, get used to being around regular looking people and have a regular looking life, which makes no fucking sense to me at all. What the fuck you mean? Majority of the people don't even want to work out. Majority of the people don't want to be healthy. Majority of the people are already killing themselves before COVID, before monkeypox. But I'm supposed to be attracted to that. That's what they want you to believe, that you don't even know how to be in a normal relationship. I don't want to be in a normal relationship with somebody who doesn't even understand basic principles. That doesn't make no sense to me. I'm supposed to you got to be normal. Fuck being normal. Why the fuck? This shit is crazy, right? This shit is crazy. Just give me the porn. Just give me the fucking porn. At least I'm preserving my goddamn life. At least I'm not putting my life at risk. I may start developing different taste, but at least my life is not at risk. But you see, they're gonna demonize porn though, which makes you go out and seek outside of yourself. So you're supposed to turn the porn off, then go seek out a regular woman or a regular man, because that's just what regular people do. Regular people get in each other's face and run their fucking mouth about nothing, then somehow they get drunk and fuck. They get high and fuck. I'm supposed to prefer that over just sitting in my own household, watching what I want to watch, relieving myself and doing whatever I need to do. Get right back to business. But I'm supposed to prefer actually going through this whole process that's now actually risky. It's been risky. Remember, this has happened before with the whole HIV pandemic. But again, people have short-term memory, so they don't even remember those times. Because we're just trying to satisfy urges that are not even physical. That's the most fucked up part of it, where we think everything is physical. That's what it comes down to. Sexual urges it's not physical. But you don't know that if you're completely in 3D. You have no spiritual insight. If you have no spiritual insight, then you don't know. Everything actually starts from the mind. It has nothing to do with the physical. Well, the universal laws tell you that everything is mental. So if everything is mental, then that means you control your sexual urges from your mentality. That's a part of your mentality. That has nothing to do with whether you're sexually active or not. That is the result. That's not the cause. Also, our diets. We're just eating whatever the fuck we want and thinking that shit is cool. I spoke about this before. You cannot just eat whatever the fuck you want and expect it to be cool. Because guess what? We've already been doing that. And look at us. That's what we've been doing. People just putting whatever the fuck they want. Whatever tastes good, they just stuff in their mouth with it. But then we wonder why we're so sick. while all these new diseases are popping up that ain't never existed before. What the fuck is this new shit? How are new diseases being created and people are doing the same shit? How does a new disease develop when people have been fucking forever? How do you get a situation where people are catching monkeypox by engaging in a sexual act that's ancient? People have been fucking since the beginning of time. But somehow, we started catching diseases. That's not because people are sexually active. It's because we are doing all this other shit behind it. See, what they're not going to tell you is, if we go back to the HIV pandemic, because they say gay men were responsible for that too. But what they're really not going to let you know is they were compromising their health. What do I mean? Using shit like poppers, using all these drugs that makes the anal, more susceptible to a penis. They were doing that with drugs. So these were not normal people engaging in normal activities. They're doing some extracurricular shit. It's a whole nother form of sex. But we're not gonna get into that. And again, I'm not about to make this video extra long, because it's unnecessary. This is really just a message. If you just out here doing whatever the fuck you want to do just because you can, aka you're just out here exercising your free will because you can, because you feel like you're free, which is how most people feel. That's why we are creating these situations for ourselves that we literally become prisoners within our own homes. People felt like prisoners in their own homes when everything got shut down, when they couldn't go nowhere. People felt like prisoners. When your home is supposed to be your temple, your home is supposed to be your paradise. But people felt like prisoners. To the point where they begin to rebel, like, fuck it, I'm going out anyway. Fuck it, I'm not about to wear no mask. Fuck it, I'm just about to be in other people's faces, and I'm about to do whatever I want. And you see where that's led us. And it's not going to slow down anytime soon. Because we know the world is not going to be spiritual. The world will never acknowledge the 7 universal laws. They're not going to acknowledge discipline in their diet. Because that requires you to change yourself. But it will change your mentality. But you don't know that if you never put it into action. It's very simple. How do I know this? I am an example of it. Meaning I stopped eating pig at 15 years old. Born into a family that never saw pig as an issue. I was being fed that shit damn near every day until I became 15. I converted to Islam. I'm like, oh, that's one of you can't eat that no more. And I'm like, all right, fuck it then. Like if I look at my pictures, when I was eating pig, I was kind of chunky. I was kind of chubby and shit. I had a little weight on me. As soon as I cut that pig out, I got skinny. So like, if you look at me now, you would never think like I had any weight on me. But I actually did. Until I changed my diet. Then my body changed. Then my mentality changed. And then my spirit changed. The only reason I am the way I am now is a big part of it is my diet. I don't eat madness. I don't eat bullshit. Like, it don't even make no sense. Like, I don't eat seafood. Like, people be liking this. Like, I can't even look at this shit. Like, I be looking at people, like, what people be eating. That shit disgusts me. I can't eat shit like shrimp and all that. I tried. It didn't work out too well for me. I can't eat cheese. I can't eat dairy. It's not going to work out for me. It's going to fuck me up. I don't feel myself when I eat certain things. I feel other than myself because I have not eaten it for so long. So if I try to eat anything that's abnormal, it's like I'm going to feel different. So I'm not here to promote like, okay, we need to be vegans and vegetarians. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is acknowledge that we've already heard this. You are what you eat. We know that already. But you don't know it if you haven't switched your diet. So you really wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know. Until you cut certain things out of your diet, how do you really know how something affects your mentality and your spirituality? You don't know until you stop eating it and you realize like, damn, I actually feel better. You're not going to know that until you actually implement a change. So not only is it change on a mental level, it's also on a spiritual level. Meaning if you're not having spiritual experiences, a big part of that is your diet. Meaning Helena Blavatsky promoted vegetarianism. She said no flesh. And this is the godmother of the occult. She said, fuck that flesh shit. And again, I know everybody is not going to be a vegetarian, so that's on my head. It is what it is. But I'm going to connect you to the source, though, because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? So if you need a source, there's your source. Don't take my word for it. Read her works. And just see what she did for the world. And you tell me if we're on that same level. And if we're not, then a change needs to be made. I mean, how does one of the most spiritual women ever tell you to be a vegetarian? And they were like, no, I'm not going to do that. But then you're not able to replicate what she replicated. So what are you doing? What are we doing? If we're not able to be on her level because we're just doing whatever we want to do just because we can, just because we can afford it, we can't be mad that we're not able to produce those same results or even better results. So the reason why majority of the world is not spiritual is because of what they eat. It just is what it is. If majority of the world was vegetarian, majority of the world would be spiritual. But because we just eat any goddamn thing that's edible, that's why the world is physical. Majority of the world is physical. They don't even think about anything spiritual because how can you? You're too weighed down because of your diet. Just look around. As they say, it's just so many people obese. Why? You become obese when you overindulge in the physical. But why would a person be overindulged? See, this is the part we don't want to deal with. Why would you overindulge in the physical? What makes a person want to overindulge? Like, all right, this ain't just normal shit. Why do you overindulge? Because at this point, we're just acting like animals. Animals overindulge. That's what they do. We have to overindulge in the physical if we don't have any spirituality within us. Because that void must be filled one way or another, meaning we are spiritual beings. We already know that. But if we do not acknowledge the spirit, we have to go extra hard in the physical to fill up that void. Meaning instead of working with spirits, instead of embodying the spirits, instead of doing the work we're supposed to do, it's just easier to fucking eat. So you can keep your mind off of the 4D and the 5D. The main issue is people are not in their heart consciousness and don't have true love. Well, how do you have true love if you eat crazy? That's exactly what I'm talking about. How do you have true love? How do you even access the heart chakra and your stomach is overwhelmed? You got to go through the stomach to get to the heart. The kundalini has to go through the stomach. So how the fuck are you going to get to the heart when it's too much in the stomach? Because that requires energy. When you need to digest food, that requires energy. So this is what I'm saying. So let's go to an energetic level. Whenever you eat, it requires energy to digest that food. Energy that could have been directed at healing yourself. Energy that could have been directed for spiritual purposes. This is what I'm saying. It takes 3 days to digest meat. So that means you have to go a whole 3 days just to clear out your system in terms of you're not digesting anything. But we know most people, they never give their body a rest. Most people never give their body a rest. So that means majority of the people are always digesting something at all times because they're always stuffing their mouth. So they never give their body an opportunity to rest. Which is more so what I promote. I just promote, like, I don't give a fuck what you eat. Just give your body a rest so that you can energize your spirit at some point. Because how can you energize your spirit if all your energy is directed towards digestion? Which is what causes people to be obese, which is the point I'm making. We become obese because the body is overworked. The body is overworked. It's too much being digested. So the obesity becomes like, it's just too much. The body cannot handle it. The body just simply cannot handle it because we don't give our body a break. We're literally abusing our bodies. Not just because of what we're eating, because the body is never able to rest. So if the body can't rest, you can't really consider yourself spiritual, because what the fuck spiritual are you doing if you don't even have any spiritual currency? Because all of your currency is being directed towards your digestion. That's like trying to meditate on a full stomach. Are you kidding me? What sense does that make? Oh, I'm about to meditate after a full meal? Are you kidding me? Why do you think they say the best time to work out, the best time to get exercise is when you wake up, before you even eat anything? Certain things need to be done on an empty stomach, especially if you consider these things spiritual. Anything spiritual should be done on an empty stomach. So this is what I'm saying. So if you consider yourself spiritual, that means any spiritual work should be done with an empty stomach. That way, your energy can be directed towards that spiritual purpose. It's just that simple. So anything you do with your spiritual currency on point would be a lot more successful, because the energy can be directed in one direction. It's just that simple. So just look around and try to disprove me. Just look around. Look around at anybody who consider themselves spiritual. If they're not doing something on an empty stomach, it's not spiritual. It's not a spiritual act. You can do it, but it's not spiritual at that point. It's more physical because you got a belly full of food. Green eyes are the same color as the heart chakra, and only 2% of the world population has green eyes. Is it a reflection of how many are in tune truly with their heart? Absolutely not, because green eyes or blue eyes are a recessive trait. Green eyes, blue eyes, that's all recessive. And I'm not saying that to be mean. That's just the truth. If you have any color in your eyes, that's a recessive trait. That means it's a lack of something. And this whole the heart chakra is green, well, that's not physical. So we're talking about two different planes here. That's just the point I'm making. You can't compare green eyes with the heart chakra, and the heart chakra isn't on the physical plane. That's in 4D, because that's a part of your astral body. Your heart chakra is a part of your astral body. Your eyes are a part of your physical body. So I'm not saying like your eyes can be any color and you can be spiritual. So I'm saying like let's not compare 3D with 4D, because it's two different things. Like a person may not be able to control their eye color. Your eye color is based on, your genes, your genetics. But your heart chakra is based on what you do. Your heart chakra is not based on your genetics. It's based on what you do. So whether a person has an open heart chakra or a closed heart chakra is based on what they do. It ain't based on who they were born from or their lineage or their genetics. That's completely free will. So how open or how closed a person's heart chakra is completely based on their own free will. Versus the color of a person's skin or the color of a person's eyes. That don't have nothing to do with them. That was strictly based on the people that came together to create them, which you can say they didn't have any control of. So a person don't have no control over whether their eyes are blue, green, red, black or blue, brown. A person didn't pick their eye color, but you can pick how open or how closed your heart chakra is. That's something you have complete control over. But that's a 4D phenomenon. That's something that you have to do on an empty stomach. I guarantee it. If you go out into the world with an empty stomach, your heart chakra will be more open. You will be more susceptible to other people. But soon as you put all of these chemicals in your body, you're not going to be as susceptible. It's just that simple. Go try it. Don't take my word for it. Wake up in the morning, go out for a run, exercise. Don't eat nothing, and just see how open you are to other people. Are you going to be irritated? No. But I guarantee you, wake up in the morning, eat a full breakfast, and don't work out. And see how you interact with other people on a full stomach and no exercise. When energy work is done, is it supposed to be done until at a minimum 2 hours after eating? Well, the most spiritual work you can do is before you eat anything, which is what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about before you put anything in your system, when you wake up in the morning, before you eat, because that's going to be more spiritual than after you eat. Because you don't digest food in 2 hours. It still takes at least 6 hours to digest vegetables. That's what I'm speaking about. It still takes at least 6 hours to digest non-meats. Non-meats take at least 6 hours. So if you do something in 2 hours, you still got 4 hours of digestion. So that's why I say you have a better chance, because if you go to sleep and you sleep for 8 hours, that can be a moment where you literally don't have anything in your stomach because your food is digested. So when you wake up in the morning, you don't have anything in your stomach and your food has been digested. All you have to do is relieve yourself. So everything is out your system. What about when people look up metaphysical meanings for 3D objects that relate 3D, 4D, and 5D? I guess what you're asking is the correlations between 3D, 4D, and 5D. And what I'm saying is there is a correlation, but it's hard to see the correlation if you're more 3D than 4D and 5D. That's the point I'm making. You need to be evenly between these dimensions, between these worlds, which is all I'm recommending. Just be even. It's just people are overly physical. People are overly 3D, and they're trying to do 4D and 5D activity, and they wonder why they can't. People wonder why they can't dream, why they can't astral travel, why their dreams are not lucid, because you're overly in 3D. It's just that simple. How do I know? Because if you fast for 6 hours before you go to sleep, you're guaranteed to dream. But how many people are not eating anything 6 hours before they go to bed? It's not too many. So that is just that simple. That's what I mean by you can't do spiritual work when you're overly indulging in the 3D. If you're not having sex with spirits, then it's probably because you're having too much sex in the 3D. So how do you expect to have sex in 4D? How do you even know that that's a possibility? This is the point I'm making. You see, it's everything that we're trying to do in 3D is not supposed to be done here. So essentially what I'm saying is, meaning if you're a person that's not sexually active, that don't mean you can't have sex or you shouldn't have sex. It's just maybe not in 3D. You know how much astral sex is available to you? You know how many fucking spiritual motherfuckers want to fuck? When I say spiritual, I'm talking about people like spirits. You know how many spirits want to fuck? But how can you do that when you're thinking about too many men or too many women? So you're not even thinking about that. Like, what would be the point? The point is you can gather more from that experience, but you got to be in 4D to even consider that. And of course, I'm not the only one that talked about it. Bobby talked about that. Bobby was always, I'm not going to say he was always speaking about spiritual sex, but that was one of the things that he brought up that nobody else was talking about. Fucking spirits, fucking deities, fucking gods and goddesses. How the fuck are you going to do that? Overindulging in 3D. Chasing after 3D men and 3D women. How are you going to do that? How are you going to be able to communicate with your ancestors? And they have to communicate with you when your consciousness is asleep. How are you going to get those transmissions when you done had a big ass meal before you laid down? How are you supposed to get some fucking transmissions? You say he wrote an article about it too. Exactly. So how are you supposed to get those transmissions? When you overindulging in 3D, people think 3D. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, fuck nature. Oh, we need to get closer to nature. Fuck nature. Oh, this is what I'm saying. That's still 3D. People think grounding themselves and fucking get the fuck out of here with all that shit. Get out of here with all that. That's still 3D. I don't give a fuck how much you meditate under a goddamn tree. How many times you walk barefoot over grass. That's still physical. That don't have nothing to do with 4D. You can still do energy work with light food on your stomach, but not heavy energy work. Shouldn't be done. You can, but is that really how you want to approach it when you don't have to do that? That's what I'm saying. Why not just wake up in the morning, do all of your spiritual work before you eat anything, then after the fact, do whatever you want to do? Why would you put food in your system, then try to do something spiritual? I'm not understanding what's that about when you can do it before you eat. I'm not telling people not to eat. I'm just saying put that spiritual work in before you do anything. Before you put anything in your system, that's when you should be doing the spiritual work. That way it ain't about, I need to wait 2 hours. Well, you could have did it when you woke up before you ate anything, which to me would be more effective. So yes, you can still eat, but is that really the best option for you when you could do it with no food in your system? You can tell me which one will give you better results. But I guarantee it is harder though. It is harder to do it. So I understand why people do that. It is harder to wake up and get on your spiritual game. It is harder. You can do it in the morning and then do it later. But why would you want to do it though? That's just like, do people go to the gym 2 times a day or once a day? That's what I'm saying. Do people that go to the gym, are they going to the gym multiple times a day, or do they get their session in and then they go take care of other business? That's what I'm saying. Why not just do it? Knock out your spiritual exercise in the morning. Then you ain't got to worry about it later on. You ain't got to worry about no spiritual work until you ready to lay your head down and go into the dream plane. And this is what I mean by like, where there is no need to overindulge if you do it right the first time. Are people meditating multiple times a day? I guess you can. But it's not going to be like that morning meditation. You can, so I'm not saying you can't. But what's more effective? If we're talking about getting the results that you know that you can get. But if we really want to be honest, I would say fast. Like if you really want to be hardcore, don't eat nothing for days. If you really want to be hardcore, if you really want to put some spiritual work in, don't eat nothing for days. Exactly. When I was in the military, they made us wake up, work out, and we eat after. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's it. I've gotten results eating and doing spiritual work, but it paled in comparison to when I didn't eat. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. No, I'm not trying to, ruffle no feathers. Maybe I am though. I'm not trying to ruffle no feathers. All I'm saying is if you want the most effective results, then you got to leave the food alone. Either temporary or go on a full-blown fast. That's all I'm saying. If you want the results that you're looking for, you got to keep that food out your stomach. That's all I'm saying. Does it go like that? For when you're feeling spiritually attacked and stuff, if you do the thing first thing in the morning, the first spiritual work, rest of the day you can be autopilot without feeling attacked? Exactly. Because most spiritual attacks is based in the 3D. So when people feel like they're spiritually attacked, yes, it's because your spirit is not being fed properly. That's all. So it's weak. When your spirit is weak because it's not being fed properly, then that's what happens. But if you give yourself that power in the morning or when you fast, yeah, so if for anybody who feel like they're spiritually attacked, just fast. I guarantee it's going to slow down, if not fully stop. So that should let you know right there, like, damn, all I had to do was stop eating and now everything changes? Yes. Yes. And it's for you to realize, like, damn, there is a connection here. We think that we got to eat and energize ourselves, but there's a lot more going on. Chemically, there's a lot more going on chemically. When we eat all these foods, especially the wrong foods, yes, you may have a full stomach, but the chemical effects of what you eat is what fuck us up spiritually. It's that chemical residue that fucks us up spiritually when we're just eating whatever we want. It's the chemical residue. Yeah, it tastes good, but the chemical residue is what keeps you out of 4D. So when we fast, what we're doing is we're clearing up that chemical residue so that we're no longer vibing low. And I'm just saying low as in to the point where people or spirits would even want to feed on you. They don't want to feed on you when your energy is where it's supposed to be, they don't get anything from that. I don't even think people even go into this stuff. Meaning all these spirits, they're not going to get anything from you if you're fasting, if your energy is on fleek. It's nothing that they can do to you. They can't leech onto you. They can't become parasites to you when you're not consuming chemicals. Because they operate through the chemicals. That chemical residue, that's how the bad shit operates. If you don't have any chemical residue, it's harder to get through to you. So they move through those chemicals. That's why it's a chemical warfare. That's what COVID is. That's what monkeypox is. That's also what abortion is. These are chemicals, chemical warfare. It's chemicals that go all in the womb when an abortion is performed. That's chemical warfare. It leaves a chemical residue. So even if you have an abortion, it leaves chemical residue. So if anybody don't realize that, now you should now. Ain't nobody else gonna tell you. Didn't you mention consuming urine? Yeah, I've spoke about urine therapy, but I know people ain't gonna do it, so I'm like, fuck it. Honestly, I know people ain't gonna consume urine, so I don't even mention it no more. Cause I already, but you see, but it goes hand in hand. You're not gonna consume your urine when you're eating crazy. So I already know the deal. It's impossible to let me say it this way. You're not going to want to drink your own urine when you're eating crazy because your urine tastes disgusting when you eat crazy. So the last thing you want to do is consume your urine and you done ate crazy. You done ate flesh. You're not going to want to consume your urine. So that's what I mean. This is a diet thing. When you change your diet, that becomes a lot easier, but you're not going to do that with a heavy diet. It's just not going to happen. So that's why I don't mention it. Like, you got to get your diet right first. That way your urine is not like a adversary to you. Some people feel like their urine is just waste. It's an adversary to them. Well, you're not going to feel like that if you change your diet. It's just that simple. You say, why would you limit yourself? It's because you can do it right the first time. You're not limiting yourself because you have the ability to meditate in the morning and you want to meditate later. When you could just do it right the first time. Because the first time is going to be more effective than the second time. I guarantee you that. Meaning whatever spirits you're trying to contact, you can do it in the morning. Very easily. You try to do it in the afternoon, it's going to be a lot harder. So you're really not limiting yourself if you do it right the first time. That way you ain't even got to worry about it until the next morning. The same way when a person goes to the gym, they're not worried about going to the gym a second time. They're satisfied with that first time. They get their 30-minute session in, they get their hour session in, then they go about their day. They're not thinking about the gym no more, right? It's done. So I'm just comparing that because like if you do it right the first time, you're not thinking about doing it later. It's already done until the next morning. Unless you're fasting. If you're fasting, you can do it whenever the fuck you want to. So the true limitation is eating at all. So if you really want to go ham, I want to meditate 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, then just don't eat. And you can be effective every single time. So I'm all good with that. Keep that food out your system and meditate all you want. So I'm definitely not going to recommend people to do anything spiritual with a full belly or half a belly. I'll say no belly or just go on a full-fledged fast if you want it to be the most effective. Which is what we should be aiming for. To be the most effective. We don't want to half-ass if we don't have to. And if you want quicker results, you gotta fast from food, solid foods. If you want quicker results, you gotta fast from solid foods. How do I know this? Because I had to fast before I even got knowledge. Meaning, if you know about the 5% nation, I was a 5%er when I was living in LA. It's like 10 years ago, before I was even on YouTube. So before I knowledge 120, meaning learning 120 word from word, which most people can't do either, they would not teach me until like, yo, you got to fast 3 days before we teach you anything. Just to see if you're ready for it. So I had to fast 3 days before I got any knowledge. But that's just tradition. That ain't because they made it. That's just tradition. Meaning you got to be in 4D to even grasp what's coming to you. You cannot be in 3D and handle any high science. You cannot be in 3D and handle any type of high science. I just had to say that 2 times. If you're trying to handle high science, that food cannot be present in your system. We're talking about high science. Yes, you can grasp low science. You can do low things or physical things. But if you're trying to grasp higher truths and higher things, you got to keep that food out your stomach. Or do your spiritual activity before you put food in your stomach. That would be the most effective way to do it. I did a urine therapy, and if done right, it works. That's all I got to say. Yep. If done right, it works. And done right meaning you have to have a very light diet. If you want results from urine therapy, your diet has to be light. Because everything you eat, you're going to taste in your urine. Everything you eat, you're going to taste it. So that's going to make you think twice about what you eat. But that's why most people are not prepared for urine therapy, because everything you eat, you're going to taste it. And then you're going to realize, like, damn, this makes my urine taste disgusting. I don't think I should be eating that. See, urine therapy makes you reconsider your diet. That's why most people are not into it. It makes you reconsider your diet when you got to taste everything you eat. It's one thing when you can just eat whatever you want and you can just get rid of it. It's another thing when you got to taste it. When you eat a bag of chips and then you taste all that salt in your urine, you're like, man, damn, maybe I shouldn't eat chips. Like, this made my urine salty as fuck. Maybe I shouldn't be eating all that salt. Because now I got to taste all this salt. But you don't have those type of thoughts when you don't have to taste it. So urine therapy forces you to change your diet because you get tired of tasting this nasty ass urine. And you know it's because of what you put in your system. Eventually, you're going to get fed up. Like, all right, I'm just not. The same thing with soda. For people that drink soda or pop, then you try to drink your urine, you like, that shit tastes disgusting. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking pop and soda because of how it makes my urine taste. So that's why I say I know why most people are not into urine therapy, because you have to taste everything you eat and you have to reconsider if you want to be effective at it. So it actually becomes a lifestyle. But again, I realize that that's not what most people are going to do. So why talk about it? If we can't even get past this point, we don't even need to discuss urine therapy. If people can't even fast, if you can't go 1 day without food, we don't even need to speak about urine therapy. If you can't go a couple days without food, there's no need to even speak about that. Most people aren't. Most people aren't. Why am I saying aren't? That's funny as fuck. Most people are not drinking truly clean water, as chemicals are added to the tap water. That's why I said fast. You are absolutely right about that. So unless you are buying water with a pH level of like 8, I believe like your pH level, your water has to be at a pH level at least about 8. Then you have, more expensive drinks for like the 9.5 pH levels. So yeah, you're right. You have to drink a certain type of water. But urine therapy solves that, so you don't have to worry about that with urine therapy. Why do you not have to know about that? Because every time you urinate, The water is alkaline. Every time you urinate, the water is alkaline. So even if you are drinking dirty water, when you urinate that water out, it's alkaline because your body just does it on its own. That's what the kidneys are for. That's what the kidneys are for. The kidneys removes all the toxins from your urine. So it goes through this alchemical process so that when you urinate, it's alkaline. So yes, you can drink dirty ass water, urinate, and now the water is alkaline. Now you're drinking alkaline water, and then you begin to drink everything you urinate. That they call it urine looping. So now you loop everything that comes out goes in. Everything that comes out goes in, and the water just keeps getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. To the point where now you don't have to drink the dirty water because now you have enough alkaline water. It's just like that. So we really ain't got to worry about, like, if you can't afford the pH, the more expensive water, because that water may be $3. If you can't afford expensive water, don't worry about it. You just got to drink your own urine. But again, you got to be pretty tough for that, as we see. I guess the challenge for me is not getting tired at work for fasting. So you wouldn't get tired if you drunk your own urine. See, this is what I realized by experience. See, everything I'm saying is because I did it. So that's the difference here. Everything that I have said, I have done. So what I realize is when I'm fasting, if you want to not be tired when you fast, you must combine fasting with urine therapy. Because the urine therapy gives you energy. When you drink your urine, it gives you energy. So if you have a lack of energy, then you must consume your urine if you're fasting. Just like that. So anybody who doesn't want to fast because they feel weak, and you're going to feel weak, at least for the first couple days. The longest I have went without physical food was 2 weeks. So again, I'm speaking from experience. I don't know too many people who went 2 weeks without solid food. I have. So I know it's possible because I had to prove it to myself. I'm not basing this off of anything I read. This is my own personal experience. So if you want to keep your energy up, you got to get the urine in. And if you don't want to drink your urine, your energy starts building back up like after the first couple days. So when you fast, you're going to be tired the first couple days because your body is cleansing itself. You're tired because your body is cleansing itself. That's what makes you tired. So when the body, after on day 4, day 5, you will begin to see your energy starts to build back up. But those first couple of days are going to be brutal because there's a lot in our system that simply just needs to be cleansed out. So it takes some time. Like things like this can't be rushed. It takes some time. You just got to be patient with yourself, which is the last thing people are trying to do. So that's why we end up in situations like this. That's my whole thing. We end up in situations like this because we are not patient with ourselves. We don't have the necessary information about the body. We think we're still believing lies. We still believe that urine is waste. We're still believing lies. So that's why we end up in fucked up predicaments. Ever since my chakra is more activated, I have not been led to eat because the ether and breathing feeds me. Exactly. Breathing is more important than food or drink. Breathing is more important than food and drink. That's why we must properly learn how to breathe. That's all meditation is. For those who may not know, meditation is simply properly breathing. That's it. All you're supposed to be doing when you meditate is properly breathing, because that is more important than the food you put in your body or the water or whatever drink you put in your body. That's what begins to heal you, because you begin to breathe properly. But when you eat crazy and you drink crazy, it throws off your breathing, which then begins to affect your health. Your health begins to be affected because your breathing is affected because of the chemicals in our body. It affects our breathing. So when your breathing becomes affected, your health becomes affected. When your breathing gets on point, your health gets on point. So anybody who's talking about food or drink, that's not more important than properly breathing. So if you properly breathe, you can probably drink anything or eat anything. But the issue is that food and that drink is fucking up your ability to properly breathe. So it's hard to properly breathe with the wrong foods and the wrong drinks. It's just that simple. That's why we changed our diet, because it makes it easier for you to breathe. And when it becomes easier for you to breathe, it becomes easier for your chi to navigate your body. So for anybody who has fasted long term, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can feel the chi surging through your body. You can feel it surging through your body. If you fasted long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can feel the chi surging through your body. You can't feel it when you eat too much though. You don't feel your chi at all. But when you fasting and when you weak, you feel that chi surging everywhere. That's that energy that normally is being used for digestion. That energy that you normally use to digest your food, now you can feel it just surging all around you. That's how you know it's real. Don't take my word for it, try it out. All that energy you feel surging is because it's not being used for other purposes. You always have access to that energy unless you take it away with the wrong foods and the wrong drinks. Prove it to yourself though. Don't take my word for it. Prove it to yourself. If you doubt anything I'm saying, prove it to yourself. I'm going based off because I did it. So that's the only reason I'm speaking on it. I can't recommend no book. I don't know a book. Just do it. And if not, you're just gonna speculate about it until you actually prove it to yourself. And anybody who doesn't want to prove it to themselves, then you already know where you are. It's nothing I can say to you anyway. Right? Like I said, I've been saying these things for years. Right? It's not my first time mentioning any of these things. But I understand it takes a lot. Like you literally have to change everything about you. Everything you think you are, you're not. See, we get too attached to our identity, who we think we are. Who you think you are is based on the food you eat. You are what you eat. When you change your diet, you change. So if you think you're an irritable person, you're always irritated. If you stop eating crazy, you're not going to be that anymore. But we be so quick to identify with these attributes that are the manifestation of the wrong foods. That's the issue. We think who we are is actually who we are. No, who we are is based on the wrong foods or the right foods. Because when you begin to consume the right foods, you become different. You're not the same person eating the right foods versus when you're eating the wrong foods. That's two different people. That's two different people. So if you identify with that 3D self, you're not going to want to engage with the 4D self because you think I am the 3D. Oh, that's me. This is just who I am. That's the energy you're going to take towards that. But you got to be willing to release all that. That's the science of non-attachment. The science of non-attachment. Whoever you think you are, you better let it go. Because if you are unwilling to change, how can you ever know your full potential? Because your full potential requires you to change. You have to elevate in your consciousness. You can't elevate in your consciousness by consuming the wrong foods. And then, food is not even the most important factor in the first place. It's third. Because what's more important than food? What you drink. What's more important than what you drink? How you breathe. So food is the last thing you should be worried about in that sense. But it becomes primary because it affects your breathing when you're eating crazy. Your breathing is going to be affected. Just try it. Breathe before you eat, then try to breathe after you eat. It's not the same. Try it. Try breathing and deep breathing and meditating after a full meal versus before you eat in the morning when you don't have nothing on you. Try to breathe with an empty stomach versus trying to breathe deeply with a full stomach. And you tell me what's the difference. You tell me which one is easier and which one is harder. All you gotta do is show and prove it. Nothing I'm saying can't be shown and proved. You just gotta be willing to put in the work. Prove it to yourself so you know. Like, okay, well, I see where you coming from now. But that's really gonna be the only way though. See, for most people, this is just words coming out of a human being's mouth. But for those who have put in that work, you know, like, oh yeah, this ain't just coming from a human being. This is coming from spirit. Your spirit. Because you already know. This is just a reminder. But I know everybody is on different levels. So that's why I make these type of videos. That's why I try to hit all levels. I know everybody is on different levels. Everybody's not going to fast for 2 weeks. I already know that. Everybody's not going to do urine therapy. I already know that. So that's why I try to speak on all these levels so that we can see the correlation between all of these dimensions and how one affects the other. That's why it don't even matter what people teach. It's about how you live. Anybody can fucking teach, but how are you living? Anybody can put on a persona and try to appear like something, but how are you living? How is your well-being? How is your health? Because if there's an issue with any of that, then it really don't make a difference about what's coming out of anybody's mouth. Just look around YouTube. Just look around. Look at all these people that's spewing madness and you ask about their diet. It's not good. But that they think that's who they are. This is why YouTube is filled with trash, because people eat trash. And the results is you're going to make trashy content. You're only going to be concerned with the bullshit going on in the world. You're not going to be concerned with the spiritual phenomenons because you're eating trash. So you can't comprehend certain things on 4D and 5D. You just certain things you can't comprehend. Hence why I said I had to fast 3 days before I was even allowed to get certain knowledge. You can't even get this without fasting for 3 days. All right, fucking, I'm fasting for 3 days because that's just how determined I was. I was just that determined. I know everybody's not going to be that determined. It's not that serious for most people. But for those that are that serious, then you're going to know, like, okay, this is why I had to do these things. Because you really don't have a choice. If you consider yourself spiritual, you got to put in work that other people are not willing to do. It's not that other people are unwilling to meditate. It's just that they can't get to higher chambers. They're like, well, why the fuck would I meditate? So yeah, you would say that with, you know, if your diet is all over the place. Meditation really ain't doing shit for you, unfortunately. So that's why most people don't meditate, because it ain't gonna do nothing for you if your diet is all over the place. If you just eating and drinking whatever you want. But that's why I say it's gonna reflect in your culture. It's gonna reflect in your nature. So again, just look around for the evidence. Look at the people that's speaking about bullshit, and look at the people that's speaking on real shit, and you're like, oh, the change is their diet. There's a difference in diet. There's a difference in comprehension here. One person has discipline, someone else don't. It's just that simple. If you can discipline your diet, you can discipline anything else. Because you're going to get hungry before anything else. You're probably going to get hungry before you even crave sex. That's what I'm saying. So if you can tame your hunger, you can tame your sexual urge. And if you can tame your sexual urge, you can tame your spirituality. So everything just falls in place after that. So you ain't worried about COVID. You ain't worried about monkeypox. You're not worried about trying to get a fucking abortion. You're not worried about all these things because you done took care of what actually needed to be taken care of first and foremost. So your sexual urge is already tamed. So you're not worried about getting an abortion because your sexual urge is tamed. You're not worried about catching COVID because your body is healthy enough to fight it off. But if your body is not healthy enough to fight it off, what do you got to do? You got to get a vaccine. If your body is not healthy enough to fight it off, you got to get a vaccine. You got to get a foreign substance to fight it off because your body is not able to fight it off. That's why so many people were dying from it, because their body was not strong enough to fight it off. And that's why they say most of the people that were dying were overweight. They were obese. Their body was literally not strong enough to fight it off. Because you can say COVID is a 4D phenomenon. It's not a 3D phenomenon. It's a 4D phenomenon. That's why it keeps mutating and evolving. That's why they have to keep coming with all these vaccines, because it's not a 3D phenomenon. It's a 4D phenomenon. So if you are not right in the 4D, it's going to be easy to get you in the 3D. You know what? Some people that never even caught COVID one time, and it's been years. See, everybody didn't need a vaccine. Some people had natural immunity, but that's because they caught it. But there's some people that never caught COVID. Just like there's some people that never caught monkeypox, and some people that just don't get sick, really. It all depends on how you choose to live out your life. So I'm just bringing to the attention the 3D affects the 4D affects the 5D, and it goes in reverse. 5D affects 4D, 4D affects 3D. They are all correlated. So if you better your diet, 4D will be better for you, 5D will be better for you. Because it's hard to even get up there or down there. I don't want to just make it up or down. It's hard to get up there or down there or in there with the chemical residue from eating the wrong foods. It's chemical residue. So if anybody has any opposition to what I'm saying, just call in. Let me put the number in here. All right. Anybody got anything to say? Anybody want to refute anything I said? Let me put the number in the chat. I'm about to put the number in the chat. So don't just take my word for it. Give me a second. One second here. Let me put this number in the chat. I have to bring it up on the phone. Let me make sure I'm signed in. Give me 1 second. Let me sign in. Let's see. All right. I don't know what's on. There we go. Almost. So I pinned it in the chat, but let me sign into Google. Hold on. All right, I'm gonna reverse this music now. All right. Okay, there it is. There it is. What if you fast and you only have alkaline water? Will you still get tired? Probably. Because water don't really give you energy. But I'm not gonna say that to discourage you. You should still fast though. Even if you're tired, you should still fast. Does alcohol, wine, and weed count as consumption or fasting? It depends on what fast. There's different types of fast. Like you have a dry fast. So if you are dry fasting, that means you're not consuming food or water. But then you have fasting, which is just not the consumption of solid foods. Then if you're smoking, that's more so affecting the breathing. So it depends on what type of fast that you want to. Hold on, we're getting a call in. Hold on, getting a call. Hold on.
Call from
Back from hiatus.
Peace, peace, peace. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Peace, God, what's good?
Hold on. Let me turn this music off.
Yeah, let me adjust my volume too much. I'm gonna try to put on this. Sorry. Oh, say. Shit. I'm just trying to put my headphones real quick. I'm sorry. Hello?
Yep, you're on.
Okay, man. So it's not, I don't really got any debate against what you're saying because everything you're saying is like straight up facts. But what I was saying is like, okay, but like the results that I've attained with practices of just like, I mean, even like sleep deprivation, because like, I don't know, man, because I don't know if it's full on like hallucinations of what I'm experiencing or if it's actual like spiritual experience happening. Because like, I know I don't like eat a lot, but I'll eat like real light things like yogurt. I don't know, that's still kind of heavy because it's dairy, huh?
Like when you're talking about sleep deprivation, and is it?
Yeah, like that. That's like an element that like I'll like add into it. Like I won't sleep for, and then that will like induce like no food. You know what I mean? Like even like amphetamines. Like I'll not abuse amphetamines. Like smoke meth, but like take some Adderall or something. That would like, I don't know. I think it's like a shamanic like boost. I can't explain what I'm trying to say to you right now because like
Yeah,
honestly, I haven't had anything.
I completely
And
understand. I completely
okay,
understand because sleep deprivation will lead to spiritual phenomenon. Because I don't know if you have you heard about polyphasic sleep.
no,
So polyphasic sleeping is you don't sleep for a full 8 hours. You basically only take naps. So basically,
yeah,
with polyphasic sleeping, you're only taking like 20-minute naps.
yeah, that's what I did. And like it'll start out like me kind of getting into a meditative vibe. I'm not like sitting there thinking about meditation, but like that's usually how I'm able to do that easily. You know what I mean? Because I'll just be like, I'll just jolt back awake and I'll be like, oh shit, I was only asleep for like 20 minutes. But I'll do that, every night of the week and not even get like a solid, 5 hours in sleep. Less than that, I go off like 2 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah, because what happens is when you begin to accustom your body to not sleeping in one large block, it's easier for you to get into REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. So basically, like your body, basically we go into a rapid eye movement like in 90-minute intervals. So
Right.
you may dream for 90 minutes, then you're not dreaming. Then you may start dreaming again. So essentially, everybody is having maybe like 3 to 4 dreams a night in 90-minute intervals. However, when you only take naps, your body goes into REM sleep immediately instead of it taking a while. So like you may fall asleep and it may take you an hour and 30 minutes to even dream. Versus
Right.
when you're only taking naps, you're going to dream immediately. Then when you go out of the dream immediately, because it's only a 20-minute session, you're able to get
Are
more
you
from
piecing
it.
dreams together when you do like personally like are you like stringing the dreams together and like having them continue on? Because like
So what?
uh
Yeah. So what happens is when you only have that 20-minute block, because the dream
yeah,
time is different than real time. So 20 minutes here in dream world that may be several
that's two
days.
days. Yeah, yeah.
So you're just able to get a lot more accomplished, and to me, it's more effective because again, you may have three different dreams, but you're not going to remember all those dreams. You may remember your most recent dream, but you're not going to remember those first two or three dreams. Versus when you're just
Right.
taking naps, you're going to remember that 20-minute session every single time. You're going to wake up out the dreams. You're going to have a full page of notes to write because it's just a more intimate and deeper experience because your body just doesn't have that much. Because if we don't dream, we die. So it really ain't
Right.
sleep that we need. It's dreams that we need. It ain't the sleep that's keeping us alive. It's the dreams. So as long as we are entering into rapid eye movement sleep, we will survive. But that all those other phases of sleep is not necessary. So that's why when a person sleeps in that 8-hour block, majority of that is
Yeah.
not
Hey,
necessary.
that's interesting, man. That's legit. Because like I'd be thinking when I have longer dreams, I'll be like at a party and there'll be like multiple people at the party, you know what I'm saying? Whereas opposed to these like little short bursts of dreams, I'll do taking with one person, you know what I'm saying? Talking to that one person, and I'll be able to gain more insight. It'll be more of a you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. It's majority of the sleep is not necessary. We just have been. This is just the culture we live in. We have to do it like that because we live in a culture where a person is working 8 hours. Then you have 8 hours for yourself and your family and all other things, and you got eight hours of sleep. So it's based off the culture we live in, but this culture is not a reflection of any ancient culture. All people from the ancient
Right.
times they didn't sleep for 8 hours at a time. That's a modern day, paradigm. So essentially, when we go back to just taking naps, we're more so going in tune with the ancient ways, and that's why they was able to be as spiritual as they was, getting all these downloads of deities and all that stuff because they simply was not sleeping for 8 hours. They were only sleeping as much as they needed to have a spiritual experience. Because again, it's not about sleep; it's about dreams. So in the dreams is where you meet the deities and you have these spiritual phenomena. It's not the sleep. The sleep is irrelevant. But you know that when you practice the polyphasic sleeping, like, oh shit, how
Yeah,
do
you
I got
feel
all
all
this
heavier in
energy?
the normal sleep. You know, you feel all like you can feel your body weight, and you'd be like, you know what I mean? As opposed to like that real light feeling in the rapid. I don't even know what it's called. What's it called? My bad.
Rapid eye movement sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, REM sleep.
Sorry. When it goes back to the seafood for the diet, so would that change it? So like, let's say like I wanted to cut out certain like junk food, sodas, whatever. But if I fucking ate hella seafood, or like if I just focus my diet on seafood, what effect would that have on the dream state?
Now, I wouldn't recommend seafood, but if you want
Okay,
to
so
do
you're
it,
saying just cut out seafood,
yeah,
period.
yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you do, if you want to eat it, because again, I'm not here to tell nobody what to do or what not to do. It's just more so you're going to see it when you are putting in the spiritual work. So, for example, if you eat seafood before you dream, that's going to affect your dreams because the chemicals. There's chemicals in seafood like every other food. So you're going to see a difference. So I would say experiments like eat meat, then dream. Eat seafood, dream. Eat certain food like the yogurt that you were saying, dairy. Eat certain foods and
Yeah,
go
man.
to the dream and see the
I'm
difference.
sorry. Go ahead.
So you're gonna be able to see a difference depending on the last thing you ate. It will affect your dream. So you just want to know, okay, when I eat this, what happens? Because again, for you it may be spiritual. Like if that's a part of your culture, if your culture is all about seafood and that's just a spiritual thing for you, that's a cultural thing, then by all means. However, if it's
I
not,
mean, I just know that like sushi like would be healthier than like a fucking burger. You know what I mean? Like and like fish oil. I was just always that's just like 3D thinking of like going off of just like shit that I heard when I was growing up. It might not necessarily be true in an esoteric or metaphysical sense, but like
yeah,
I figured if
fish
I was
oil is
gonna
good.
eat
Like yeah, fish oil is good. That's healthy. Yeah, I understand that.
yeah with some rice and some seaweed and that's all. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah, exactly. So that's why I say the
yeah.
best teacher will be your body, because that's what we're trying to do. We're discovering what makes our body react in the way it reacts. So that's why you must experiment. So if you get good
I
results
started
from
paying
it,
attention,
then
paying close attention when you're talking about the breathing, man, because that is a big deal. Because I got asthma, And man, it's you're totally right, dude. When your breath is on point, the spiritual shit's on point. Like, you, yeah,
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
crazy.
And that's why we must control our diet, because our diet is the main thing that's affecting our breathing.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
man, I was going off the experiment, eating just nothing but candy, and that was like doing something, but it wasn't doing anything like profound. It was, but I don't know, I was able to get like just like I don't know, 3D shit just easier, like acquire like money, like just like little like 5, 10, you know what I mean? Like I was putting like healthier food on my altar, and like when I put oranges on my altar, I was able to invoke Kali. Like it's like I mean like she was like right there, in my subconscious, like and I prior to that never put food on my altar, but it was told like a spirit was just recommended to put give offerings to your ancestors and to whoever's on your altar and see the results, and like that's really what happened. I was like, whoa. And you know
exactly, because they feed on not the food itself, but the essence. And the essence
right.
does not come with a chemical residue. So that's why the spirits, they feed on the essence of the food, and that does not leave a spiritual residue. So then they can give that energy to you because you gave them the food. So they give you that pure energy back that we will have to do all this work to get. So that's why spirituality is actually more advanced than the diet and all that, because just like you said, somebody can put some fucking oranges on the altar and they invoke Kali, but somebody else, you may have to fast for a couple days and do some urine therapy or something before you actually to have that same experience. So spirituality trumps all that at the end of the day. So I don't want to confuse it as spirituality, but you have to know those codes. Everybody doesn't know those codes. But those codes come from the spirit world, so you have to put in the work. Then when the spirit lets you know, okay, you ain't got to do all that. Just get this combination.
you're,
Then you
you're
go
right.
in
That's
from there.
Cali right there all day.
Exactly. So that's how you would get those codes. Because again, this is ancient science, and because we don't have that information that's readily accessed, most of us don't just have that. Most of us have to do the hard work before it gets easier.
Damn, I see what you're saying now, bro.
Absolutely.
Wow. So like, okay, I know we're not going to get into good or bad or none of that bullshit, but like, okay, so like Salima as opposed to Kali, as opposed like, or not as opposed, but in regards to rank, or like uh position, like so like in the realm of Salima, that how does that even have this? I can't explain the question. I can't even put the question into words. What I'm trying to say to you, dog. I'm sorry. Like
So what you're saying
basically, like
is
if
just
I
depending on the spirits, like what would be more effective in terms of what's the difference between, like, for if you have a thelemic mind versus, you can say, like, the mind of the spiritual Hindu, like what would be the
yeah,
difference?
right, yes, yes, yes.
Yes, because with the Lima there are deities. Like you have Nuet, you have Horus, you have Rahaku. There are deities in the Thelemic. However, right, depending on how you have designed your mind, because I know everybody is not Thelemic. Yeah, some people actually they gonna fuck with Kali because Kali fuck with them. People gonna fuck with who
Right.
fucks with them. So that's why I
Yeah.
said, depending on who you're fucking with, they have certain codes and combinations that work for them. So depending on what
And,
your preference is, that would be the direction you should go in, depending on what experience you're trying to have. So if you're trying to tap into Kali, then Kali requires certain combinations. Versus if you're trying to tap into Thelemic deities, all these require certain combinations that we may not know about until we put in the spiritual work. You got to do a little fasting in order to
well,
get those
that's
codes.
amazing. That's amazing. Because it's like it don't even got to be. It's not. It has nothing to do with culture. And that's like the point we can even get at with people. Like it don't got. You don't got to be Hindu to fuck with Cali. You know what I mean? You don't got. You know what I mean? You don't got to be like some. You know what I mean? To so it's like man, that's interesting. So like what about like Oshun and like all those deities? Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
um
like because all these deities are based on a culture, and that culture is based on, you can say, a particular landmass. So meaning every country, every landmass you go to, there's different resources. Like you can't grow the same food you grow in China and Africa, and vice versa. Like depending on the lands, because all the lands were cultivated differently because of the original people that was there. Because we know that the
How
world.
did I get in contact with Cali though? Because I have nothing to do with like Hindu background, but I mean like I have studied it since I started my awakening and all that shit. But like I don't pay, what I mean? I wasn't like honoring no Hindu guys, but when I needed some protection, Kali just like hopped up in the mix and was like fucking flexing and like having people scared of me. I was like, oh shit, I'm not an intimidating person. You know what I mean? I was like, oh shit, this is real.
Exactly, is realer than anything else, and that's why people were intimidated. Like that was realer than anything else that they are interacting with. Like everybody
Yeah.
ain't talking to Jesus and all that. So to answer your question, like why Cali popped up and you're not a student of anything Eastern, is
Right.
because at the end of the day, it goes down to just because we may not be aware. You can say our genetics are deep. Cali is in your genetics somewhere. It's just not your
Oh.
recent genetics. You may not be able to look at your parents or your grandparents, but somebody in your lineage had something to do with Cali. She ain't gonna come to you for no reason because like the fact that she came to you, you knew who she was. That's the point. Like I know who Cali is.
She made it known. She made it known. She announced it to everybody, like who was there. I was like, whoa. It's like I took a backseat to my own consciousness. I was like, what the fuck is going on right now?
That's just the
People thought I was
activating of
like
your own
schizophrenic.
genetics. You're activating your own genetics. It's already in you, but
Wow.
now you become the vessel of it. So just like I could say, Thelema was already in me. Like I've been fucking with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I didn't know that was gonna lead to me being thelemic.
What?
So, but it was already there. It was being
Yeah.
expressed in different ways. So it was already there. So that's why we have our preferences. Some people will prefer Oshun over Cali. Some people will prefer the Chinese, the Japanese, because it's off their lineage, but not their
So,
immediate lineage, their ancient lineage.
so Bobby was just a mix of all this wide range. He has vast knowledge on like all types of, you know what I mean? He'd be
Because
tapping in
he
all kinds of
started
shit.
with the Kemetic. And then because the
Oh.
Kemetic was universal, it basically where you root yourself. And then you study everything else. So, for example, you see that Cali came to you. So Cali becomes your foundation to understand everything else. Because now you go like, okay, well, who was Cali in the Egyptian pantheon? Who is Cali in Africa? So you begin to
Oh,
make the
yes.
correspondences. That's the second universal law. Who is
Yes.
Cali everywhere else? And then you're like, oh, okay, so this is actually, you may be a child of Cali. Just like somebody is a child of Oshun.
Right.
So the more correlations you're able to make with Cali, you're like, oh, because I am the child of Cali, that means everything that relates to Cali, I can tap into that. So I don't need to limit myself to India. Well, who is Cali in America?
Shit, man. Hey, yeah, okay.
And that's why
Man,
you put in
I
the
just,
spiritual works to figure out those answers. You may not have that answer, but that's why you put the spiritual work in to receive those answers you can't find in the book or somebody else can't tell you.
precisely,
Like
man.
nobody would have been able to tell me about the Lima. Not like, oh yeah, I need to do that. No, it was just a natural phenomenon. After I started fucking with that Thelemic deck, that the Book of Thoth, then eventually, oh here you go. Because I had
Yeah.
the deck before I even knew about the Lima. I was
Yeah, me
attracted to the
too,
deck.
man.
Exactly, I was drawn
But
to the
no,
deck.
yeah, me too. With Cali, like my girl had the Cali deck. I was like, that shit looks demonic. I was like, what the fuck? And then like I started reading. I was like, oh, whatever. And then when that experience happened, I go back and I connect with the oracle cards like even deeper. And then you know what I mean? That just kicks off some more shit, dude.
Exactly, and that's how it should be done. That's how it should be done, so that you are able to unlock the fullness of who and what you are, and you become an inspiration to others. Like, yo, it's what I did. Anybody can do. You just have to take that journey. It'd be a lot of
Yeah.
spiritual phenomenon that happen that people reject because they're already a part of something else. Like if you're a Christian and then fucking a law come to your ass, you will probably reject it,
Right.
not knowing that that's a part of your lineage.
Yeah.
So that's
You'd
what
be
holds
terrified of
most
it.
people back because they be already a part of something, then something else happened, and they're like, yo, that's outside of my dimension, so I'm gonna leave that alone. That's how most people deal with it because they consider it
Yeah.
demonic. It's like a demon come to you and you only working with angels, you're probably gonna not want to work with that demon. You're gonna rebuke the demon. So that's why we
Man,
must be universal.
words change definition over over time. They change context. Whatever.
Exactly, because the more connections you're able to make, the more you realize that all these people were explaining the same thing just from their perspective.
Right.
So
It's like a
that
battery.
exactly, Cali in the West is the same as Cali in the East. It's just a different perspective, but they're getting at the same foundation. And Cali is all about the tantric sciences. That's a tantric deity. But
And
we
she
we
comes from
have that.
what?
We don't call it tantra in the West. We call it sex magic. Same
Right.
thing though. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, man. Like, uh, were you? This is an experiment that I was doing with myself. Were you tapping into my energy before I hit you up? That's just a question. I just want to see, like, if I don't know, because I don't know. I felt like you could hear me audibly, and I could, or I could hear you, and you could hear me in your mind. I can't explain it, but like that's what Spirit was like trying to count and download into my fucking. I don't even know. Like, were you picking up on any of that shit just from? I don't know.
You talking about now or this period?
Within the last 24 hours.
Last 24 hours?
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it was shit.
because I'm not gonna lie, I was like kind of fucking, I was kind of scared, like fucking to come back to the channel, because like, you know what I mean, like I didn't realize that like what was happening. I was like, what the fuck, and I let the fear get in me, man, and I had to like fucking, you know, figure some shit out. I was like, oh, okay, wait, what am I doing? And so I fucking, you know what I mean. The second I do that, I tuned into your channel, and I received like the biggest download in like fucking months, dude. And then like, I just wonder if you were feeling any of that, like energetically tapping into that shit.
Well, yeah, I'm heavily active in 4D. That's why I be talking all this madness. That's why I be talking all this madness. So yeah,
Yeah, man.
I'm working. I work through. I work all people. Like yeah, if people who are familiar, basically, if you're familiar with me or anyone else, you are initiated into that. Meaning, like, if you know me well, like, if you know anybody else well, you can tap into that energy, and I can tap into the energy because there's a connection there. Same thing with Cali. So we
Wow.
have the ability to tap into each other because that's the collective consciousness. We are all connected anyway. We know that already. However, like with the people we are
Okay.
more drawn to, like yeah, I've had like dreams and visions of like other YouTubers that like I would heavily consume the content. I'm like, oh shit, I can actually tap into this person. Yeah, because we can tap into anybody. However,
We
we
could
get
tap into anybody, but like that's how narcissists and shit be preying on people, though, bro. And
yeah,
that's
of
how
course,
motherfuckers get caught up in the fucking web of life and die.
absolutely, because you
I
have to
was
be
I was like, what the fuck? People are tapping. I didn't even know people were tapping into me. They're fucking taking. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. That's
Everybody's
why
hand in the fucking jar. Like
That's why we
what?
put the work in. We put the work in so that we protect ourselves from the bullshit, and we are open to things that actually are effective. That's why it goes both ways. So that's why I speak about the diet and the breathing. So yeah, you want to keep the bullshit away and be open to something that is constructive. So if you open to my energy, it's because you actually are trying to be constructive. Like nobody's going to tap into my energy for destructive purposes. But you would tap in like, okay, I know it's time for me to go to another level. It's time for me to advance. And that's all. That's all
Wow.
you can be for a person. Like if you're spiritual, like yo. So yeah, you should tap into me. I encourage anybody to tap into my energy if you want to advance and be constructive. Because I'm definitely going to help you there. I will meet you halfway, of course. That's what I'm here to do. I'm not just here to talk shit. I'm also operating
Oh
in
yeah,
4D. So yeah, why
man.
not?
I'm very grateful for you for what you do, bro. You already know. You already know me, man.
Absolutely, man. So that's what I'm here for. So yeah, don't never let the fear take hold of you. Like so, whatever the spirit is communicating, definitely be receptive to it because it definitely is a message for you. There is something for you to help you advance, to get to another levels or different chambers, whatever it is that you're trying to do. So that's why again we just put the diet, you got the breathing, you got the diet, you got the water. So it just makes it easier to do all that spiritual phenomenon when you got the physical on point. It's hard to do it when
You
the
ever?
physical ain't on point. Yep.
Have you ever looked into the Hopi Indian, what was that called? The premonition that the elders had about, the fate of the world or whatever. You ever looked into that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Hopi Indians in the terms of because like I'm actually in the atmosphere that they was in. Like the whether we want to call it the Hopi Indians or like they were in the southwest of the Americas.
Yeah.
So like I feel like I may be channeling them because I'm literally on the lands. I'm sure we are walking over dead ancestors. Like if you're in the Southwest, but that's for anyone. That's
I
for
mean,
anyone.
I'm up in the Northwest, but it's like I've still native culture held like
Yeah,
big up here and shit.
exactly.
But like I tapped into that, and I was thinking, man, uh, you should look into that, and then maybe touch on that subject in the future, man, because I think that would um, connect a lot of dots as far as like people trying to get over this ethnic bullshit. Like people get so wrapped up in ethnicity that they are not tapping in because they're, you know what I mean? They're worried because it's like, oh, well, I'm not allowed. It's like, dude, no, it's not even like that. You gotta fucking, you know what I mean? People think, oh, I'm not Hindu, so I can't worship Hindu deities and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, you have that is, but that's why they want to keep us separated so that we don't tap
yeah,
into each other's currency and we stay limited. So that is the plan because we are
right.
universal. So like the more the black taps into the white, the black, like oh, this is all our shit. The whole planet is ours. That means we can
Yes,
tap into anything. But yes, you got to get over. That's what I mean. Like you got to, even if you're a Christian and if some Muslim deities come to you, you can't reject that. But most people do. So yeah, you're right. Most
right.
people hold themselves back because they're not ready to embrace their alter ego because they're too caught up in their ego. You got to embrace your alter ego, which can connect to every other thing.
Man, I'm getting a download right now, bro. Honestly. All right. Hey, man. I'm about to let you go, dog. But like, man, most gratitude, most respect. Mad
Same,
homage to
same
you,
to you.
bro.
Same to you, man. So again, we are one collective. We are one. So that's why I always say that we are one. We have access to each other, not just on a 3D, but also on a 4D. And we're going to be the ones that help each other even more than the deity.
You know.
So that's what we're here to do. So I definitely appreciate you sharing your energy with us, and elevating us and
Yeah.
bringing up these things. And we always appreciate you.
Right on, brother. Thank you. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Take care.
All right.
93.
Shalom.
All right. Okay. So as I was saying, I'm just here to show people how real this is. Because we have so many blockages. So just like the homie was just saying, we be all the way over here and we don't embrace the other side. We be so caught into our ego that the alter ego can't speak to us. Because the alter ego can connect to all spirits. But you know why we don't want to deal with all spirits? Because the all spirits were considered gay. We have gay spirits out there. But you see, like a straight man, like, oh, why would I want to connect with a gay deity? Well, your ego stops you from doing that. You may be a woman and a female deity come at you trying to fuck. Like, oh, well, I'm straight. I ain't into that. But it's a 4D experience. See, the ego gets too caught into what you identify as. And then you see we stop ourselves from going into what we actually are beyond that identity. And that's the only point I'm making here. Do not get so caught up in your ego that you don't embrace the alter ego, that you don't embrace the all spirits. So whatever you choose to identify as, don't look at that as the ultimate resolution, because there's always more to learn. There's always more deity to connect to. There's always more to embody. So that's why I bring up 4D. You can get sexual with spirits. But you probably don't care about that if you're trying to get sexual with men and women on 3D. But you see, that is not as, well, let me not say that. For me, and I'm sure other spiritual people feel that way, like I'm not in no rush to sexually engage with strangers. I'm not in no rush. I'm not in no rush to engage sexually with a person I barely know. Like that doesn't interest me whatsoever. Because you understand If I'm going to be fucking any strangers, it's going to be some strange ass spirits. It ain't going to be no strange women. Because we have no idea the type of lifestyle that they live. But spiritually, it's a whole different phenomenon. But you see, it's hard to even be open to that because, again, we're struggling with our sexual identity still. We're still struggling with our own sexual identity to even think about these things. So that's why they want to keep these things in our face. Again, gay. Look, that's what the whole monkeypox with. It's only amongst gay men in the trans community. So for anybody who already don't fuck with the gays and transsexuals, this is just another reason why they shouldn't. We're still caught up in the 3D. You don't think it's trans spirits? What do you think that shit comes from? You don't think it's transsexual spirits in the spirit world? Just like it's gay spirits, just like it's straight spirits, pansexual, non-binary, all whatever fucking terms that we can think of, all that exists in the spirit world as well. But we have a hard time even accepting people that identify as different things than us. You got some straight people that don't even want to be in the same room with a gay or a trans person. They don't even want to be in the same area. They don't want to have no conversation. So that person is damn sure not having no sexual experiences on 4D. But this is why they keep these things in our face, because it keeps us on a certain level. Because the straight spirits don't have all the answers. The trans spirits don't have all the answers. The gay spirits don't have all the answers. You got to do it collectively. You have to engage with all people. But that's what business is, right? Business is you ain't worried about the person. You're like, okay, it may be a round table full of all types of people. As long as we agree on one common cause, it don't matter about their culture. Because we have all agreed for one common cause. And that's what it's all about. 93. Exactly. Androgynous. Exactly. Everybody has something to give, or every spirit has something to give, just like every person has something to give. That's what makes life beautiful. Because you don't have to just be this or that. We're not thinking in absolutes. We don't have to think in absolutes. We have been trained to think in absolutes. You're either this or that. And if you're this, you can't fuck with that. That's an absolutist way of thinking. Which becomes, destructive. That way of thinking becomes destructive because you cut yourself off from your own fullness based on an identity that really don't matter. Why the fuck does it matter what you identify as? What difference do it make? But it makes all the difference to most people. But it really shouldn't make a difference. But it does. But that's why monkeypox exists. That's why HIV exists. That's why COVID exists. Because we refuse to accept all people. It's really that simple. And you know why? Because of religion. Religion did this. That's why religion is the greatest poison. Religion is more poisonous than anything else. Any food you can eat. It's a mental poison. The mental poison is more dangerous than any food you can eat. Anything that you can drink. The mental poison is a lot more deadly. Because we see that is just another tool to separate us. Anything that we can identify as is a tool to separate us. Because most people that identify with something, they don't fuck with the other side. Right? It go everywhere from the streets to the highest chambers. Right? Putin doesn't fuck with Biden. Just like a GD doesn't fuck with a BD. Like a Crip doesn't fuck with a Blood. It don't matter what level of life you're looking at. There's always a reason why we can't come together, and we wonder why we keep getting fucked over by other people that come in and take advantage of the situation. Because that's what ended up happening. That's how slavery happened, right? Slavery ain't happened because another group of people enslaved a whole another group of people. No. It was so many differences between the same groups of people that a whole nother group was able to capitalize off of our division. We couldn't even get along with ourselves. So other people can come in, other cultures can come in, assimilate, and do what they want to do. That's how we got colonized. That's the whole theory of colonization. Colonization isn't about just wiping out the original cultures. It's also to keep the people separated. That's why I was saying earlier. That's why we have situations like Detroit, Chicago, Baltimore, where it's just hell on earth. But we're supposed to have all this money to fix the problem. How is America the most richest country, as we say, we're the top dogs of the world, but we still got people killing each other over colors? Because it's a lack of resources. We can barely feed our own selves. So we're forced to go to war with each other. Exactly. Religion is poisonous. Because religion keeps you in a box. Because Christ is not the ultimate truth. It may be to a Christian. The only thing they give a fuck about is Christ. But to say that Christ is the ultimate reality, like it ain't other deities on the planet, you're just fooling yourself. But they're just fine with fooling themselves. That's what makes them religions. Now you see how that works. They don't have no issue being prejudiced. Because that's what the ego wants. The ego is fragile. The ego wants to be prejudiced. The ego wants to kill anything that it feels would jeopardize its position. That's what the ego does. Anything that jeopardizes its position, it wants to eradicate. That's the difference between the ego and the alter ego. The ego wants to eradicate the alter ego instead of assimilating with the alter ego. Because when you assimilate with the alter ego, you can see things for how they truly are. Like, oh, I can see truth in all things. That means you can see truth in a fucking prostitute. You ain't got to look at a motherfucking Jesus. You can look at the woman in your own community that everybody hates and you can still see God. But how many people are doing that? They want to go into the church. They want to go into the temple, the synagogue, the masjid. That's where they're going to connect with God. Then they want to ignore the drug addicts, the prostitutes, right? The homeless, right? We want to look over these people like we're in a better position than them. Until you realize, if you realize, God is all things, good, bad, and ugly. So if God is all things, then that means you can find God anywhere, in the streets, that means. So you can be in the streets and still find God. Still find the goddess, if that's what you believe. She's there too. She ain't just the nun, it's also the prostitute. That's the whole science of Tantra. The law of reversal. But how many people are ready to accept that? Not too many. Not too many people are looking for God in prostitutes and pimps and all these people that we just supposed to despise. Like they're just Satan's workers. But Satan was created by God too. So what the fuck does that mean? If we go by, if everything is created by God, including evil, that means evil is also godly. Because it comes from a divine source. So even you can say a demonic energy still comes from a divine source. That means every demon has a divine spark within them. That means every demon has the potential to be an angel. That's why the jinn, according to the Quran, they can decide whether to be good or wicked. They have a decision. That's a decision they can make. See, we don't hear that about demons. See, once you go into the Christian, they don't tell you that about demons. All demons are just negative and evil, and they're just up to no good. But according to the Quran and the law, every jinn has the ability to make a decision. So that means you have the ability to work with good jinn. They all not on bullshit. But they don't want to tell you that though. See, you got to go into a whole different doctrine to get that. But you see, if you're in the Christian doctrine, you're not going to ever see that. All demons are just negative. You're not supposed to ever deal with any of them according to the Christian doctrine, but according to the Islamic doctrine, some are good, some are bad. So you can fuck with the good. You can fuck with the ones that are constructive. You can even have children with the jinn babies. But that's too far, right? That's a little bit too much. So I was talking about sexual contact with spirits, but you can also have spirit children. That's a little too far though. Because right like now that's a whole different world. But that's the whole science of Lilith though. If we acknowledge Lilith, that's what Lilith did. Lilith never had a physical child. Eve did. Eve was having physical children, but Lilith never had a physical child. But Lilith was able to give birth, but only on 4D. That's why she's in the clip off. Lilith gave birth to those dark babies, the jinn babies. That's why she was called the queen of the jinn. If you know your studies, that means she's the queen of the spirit babies, the jinn babies. She's a queen of those. 4D. I heard Mary Magdalene was in the streets, and Yahshua was the one that looked at her just like a nun. You can probably elaborate. That's exactly why that's there. Right, she was supposed to be this prostitute, but he saw her divinity, and he took her under his wing and gave her the game, and that's why she actually became the most holy. That's why she was right underneath him when he was on that cross. When he was on that cross, who was at his feet? Mary. So all that blood that dripped from that cross, it was collected by Mary, the so-called prostitute, the so-called low woman, the so-called loose woman, the rebellious one, the so-called woman who didn't want to submit to a man. So we be so caught up with these disciples, but the greatest work was Mary. Because again, she was the one that said, fuck all men. I'm about to do this shit myself. I'm about to make this shit happen in the streets. She wasn't checking for no dudes. All you can give her was money. So you can say she was the most vile. She was the worst. Even worse than the fucking disciples. So they may have been little womanizers, but they wasn't full blown in the streets like that. That's why she was his greatest project. Not no fucking disciple. But you would know that if you read the Gospel of Mary, but that's a Gnostic text. That's Gnostic. If you read the Gospel of Mary, it lets you know that the disciples were actually jealous of Mary. If you know. They were jealous of her. Go read the literature. Don't take my word for it. Read the fucking literature. Like I had to read it. So the disciples were not above her. They were actually jealous of her. They didn't like this motherfucker. Like, damn, what the fuck? Why does she get all the divine secrets that he's not telling us? They were jealous of her. So you got to know that means she came from the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. Triple darkness. She came from triple darkness. And he was able to show her the light. Something that no other man could do because they're too caught up in their own darkness. They was trying to womanize her and she was just more advanced than them. As most prostitutes are. You can't fucking outwit a goddamn prostitute. Most men can't. She's a little bit too wise. Which is why they say the only man that's qualified to be with a prostitute is a pimp. This is why. Because no so-called holy man wants to engage her. No holy man is going to accept that lifestyle. So the only man qualified to accept that is the pimp. That's why that works. That's why it works. Who else will be dealing with a prostitute? It's really simple. Who else is qualified to deal with Mary other than Jesus? Oh, but y'all didn't know Jesus' great-grandmother was a prostitute, though. So that really, it ain't that far-fetched. See, most people don't know that. They ain't studied that deep enough. Jesus' great-great-grandmother was a fucking prostitute. Do your studies. Don't take my word for it. Do your history. But again, we don't want to do that type of history. We want to keep Jesus in this divinity where he was just as demonic. Why the fuck would he give about Mary? Why would he care about Mary? Why didn't Jesus just get a fucking nun? Or a modest woman? You see how that works? Why didn't he just get a modest woman who covered herself, who was God-fearing? Because that's what every other man wants, right? You want that modest woman. Yeah, you want to fuck the prostitute, but in terms of the wife, you want a modest wife, don't you? You want the woman that fears God. But that's not Christ-like. That ain't the woman Christ had. Because there was plenty of those women around to choose from. But those women was laughing at him. Remember, the people killed Jesus. The people was laughing at this nigga like, who the fuck is this? They didn't give a fuck about him. The only woman that gave a fuck was Mary. So what the fuck choice did he have? See, we don't want to hear that, though. We don't want to hear that. Those modest women felt like they were too good for him. They felt like they was too good. They was above him. Like, well, what the fuck does he have? He don't even have a church. You know, the same talk we hear from modern women. The same shit. So the only woman who didn't care about the 3D because she had that on lock. She had as much money as she wanted. The 3D is on lock for Mary. So she didn't care about the materialism. She didn't care about it. She had it already. She didn't give a fuck about getting money from Jesus. She had plenty of it. The fuck she need? What the fuck? So she wanted something more than what a normal man can give her. Like a normal man can give her a house. A normal man can give her children. You know, can keep her bills paid. That's what women are looking for in a husband. That's exactly what they're looking for. They need, you know, to carry the seed. But that type of woman is not thinking about all that. Because she doesn't care. Prostitute, she don't give a fuck about having no children. She's not looking for a husband, and she ain't looking for no cash. She got that on lock already. She chose a different type of lifestyle. So she was the only one qualified to receive the teachings of Jesus. But you're not going to hear a Christian say that. That the only qualified woman to receive those teachings was the prostitute. You're not going to hear a Christian say that, though. But this is why. Because the Christians teach women to be modest. The Christians teach women to be everything opposite of Mary. You see how that works? You're not going to go to church and learn how to be like Mary. They're going to condemn that. They're going to tell you, no, you need to get out that lifestyle. You need to come into the church and you need to praise God. You need to pray to Jesus. Jesus need to get those demons out your system. That's what they're going to tell you. That's what the normal Christians are going to tell you. They're not going to tell you like, damn, because you were willing to live that lifestyle, that makes you more spiritual. Because clearly, she was spiritual enough to receive spiritual teachings. Versus the other women who were just completely in 3D, they didn't give a fuck about 4D teachings. So they were not qualified to receive no 4D enlightenment because they're not thinking about that. They're chasing after men like the men are chasing after women. They're just playing this fucking battle of the sexes game with each other, which is what most people are still doing now. They're just playing this little game of battle of the sexes, playing these fucking games with each other. Just look at any fucking relationship. Just playing games on each other. It's a psychological game. But you don't play a fucking psychological game when you're dealing with a certain type of person. There's no need to play a psychological game if you're in 4D. Because you're not looking to get anything from anyone. You see how that works? So this is why these teachings are hidden, whether it's the Gnostic teachings, the Sufi teachings, or the Kabbalistic teachings. Because once you go to the Kabbalistic teachings, oh man, I hate that I had to be the one to reveal this. but ain't nobody else gonna do it because they're too caught up in their ego. If you go to the Kabbalistic teachings, the Jewish teachings, they actually said that every man needs 2 women. I know you don't want to hear that though. So why does every man, not every man, but what's this whole ideology of you need a wife and a mistress? That comes directly from the Kabbalistic teachings. That ain't something a motherfucker made up. That's why Adam had Eve and Lilith. That was just a metaphor for something deeper. But everybody gets caught up in the metaphor. That's why there's 2 heads. Yod, He, Vav, He. Yod, He, Vav, He. It's 2 heads. It's 2, not 1, 2. Because according to their teachings, 1 woman can't fully satisfy a man. And we're not talking about sexually. You can say, well, sexually, that's for the mistress. The mistress is supposed to be the one that fulfills your dark fantasies. The wife is supposed to fulfill your light fantasies. It ain't supposed to be the same goddamn woman fulfilling the light and the dark. Not according to the Kabbalistic teachings. But again, you're not going to go to a synagogue and they tell you that. They're going to tell you to marry 1 woman. Even with Muslims, Muslim men are allowed to have 4 wives, but most of them have 1. But you are allowed to have 4, but most have 1. According to the Quran, it's like, yeah, you're able to marry 4, but if you know better, you will only marry 1. So that's why most people just 1 man, 1 woman relationships, because that's what the church said. That's what the synagogue said. That's what the masjid said. That's what the temple says. They're not going to look up at you because you walk in with 2 wives. They're going to look down at you. You're walking to the fucking temple with 2 wives. Walking to the church with 2 wives. Because it's not even legal to do so. You can't even legally marry 2 women. It's called bigotry. You cannot even legally marry 2 women. So you tell me who does that benefit? It's definitely not benefiting the man. And it ain't benefiting the woman. That's just the Christian doctrine. 1 man, 1 woman. But that has nothing to do with who we are as people. That has nothing to do with human instinct. That has nothing to do with spirituality. That's completely a 3D teaching made to keep the people under control. To make you feel bad if you fornicate. Because that's one of the sins. So no fornication. Because they're not looking into what is that really saying. No fornication don't mean no sex. It just means you probably shouldn't be fucking a person that you don't know. That's it. It's not to condemn sex, because you can fuck your wife all day. But you ain't supposed to be fucking somebody that's not your wife. Or that's not your husband. But this whole wife and husband thing is spiritual. These are metaphors for something else. That's what, see, we're taking all these things literally. A husband and a wife, they actually mean something else. It's not what you think it is. But symbolism is a bitch, though. You see, the whole reality is based around these symbols. To make you think opposite of the truth. Or is only giving you half the truth. You're only receiving half of the truth. So we know about Lilith and we know about Eve. But it's not telling you, oh, that's a Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. See, we don't get that part of it. We only get the bullshit. We only get told about the serpent seducing Eve and this apple shit. There was no apple in the original story. Read a Jewish Bible, you're not going to hear nothing about no fucking apple being eaten. So what are they really talking about then? That's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. But we're taking metaphors literally. Like it was literally a talking snake. And there was literally a fucking apple that you can bite into. And that just makes you enlightened. See, if you look deep enough, you know exactly what they are. So you can bite into something and you find enlightenment. Well, what the fuck can you bite into that gives you enlightenment? See, if you put two to two together, you know exactly what that is. What are you gonna bite into that's gonna give you enlightenment? That's a real phenomenon, but it ain't no fucking apple. Try mushrooms. Oh, see, we don't want to hear that though, because that's psychedelics and that's illegal. And if you get caught with it, you go to jail. But I guarantee you bite into a fucking mushroom, you're gonna have a psychedelic experience. Guaranteed. Bite into an apple, you're not. So the apple is a metaphor for a mushroom because mushrooms are underground. That's illegal. You're not supposed to mess with that. Just like women are not supposed to be prostitutes, men are not supposed to be pimps. We ain't supposed to fuck with any of that. So we create metaphors to distract us from what's actually going on. And once we lose ourselves, we take the metaphor literally. So we always knew it was a metaphor until we stopped understanding the metaphor. The metaphor became the reality. That's what happened. The metaphor became the reality. And then we wonder why people are so fucked up and how all these diseases are coming out of nowhere and people are doing what they've been doing. It's because if you are not spiritual in these times, you just got hell to pay, unfortunately. Because that's what I see. I'm like, all this shit that's coming up, all this inflation, all of this, like, it seems like the world is going backwards. The world is retrograde right now. It seems like the earth is retrograde. See, ain't nobody gonna tell you that though. See, yeah, they talk about the planetary retrogrades, but the earth itself is in a retrograde state. That's why diseases is popping up. Motherfuckers is hurting. People are really hurting right now. Prime ministers are resigning right now. Governments are being dissolved right now. We see what's going on in Sri Lanka right now. The president had to flee the country in Sri Lanka. Fucking president had to flee the country and the people stormed into his home. They broke into his home. But we don't hear about that, do we? I heard it though. I saw the imagery. I saw the imagery of hundreds of people inside this man's home. And he's in a whole different country. They just elected a new president not too long ago. They just elected a new president maybe a day or two ago. Because the last one had to flee. But we think that's just how things are happening. No, if you don't get on your game and activate your 4D consciousness, you're going to get trapped into all this fuck shit. And it's not going to end well. Because this is a spiritual call. I told y'all before, a retrograde energy means the planet is going through its spiritual phase. So because the earth is going through a retrograde phase, it forces us to dig deeper into our spirituality. That's why I'm revealing these things now. It's absolutely necessary now. There's no time for me to bullshit with shit that don't matter. That shit that's not relevant. That's why I'm speaking about current events and I'm tying it together with the spirituality to make it holistic. We don't have time for any other games. I wish I can just talk about video games and what's going on in fucking Hollywood and just not give a fuck. I wish I could, but I would be doing everybody an injustice. Let everybody else do that shit. Let everybody else distract you and make you think like this is just some temporary shit. That is going to go over and we're just going to go back to normal eventually. Yes, let everybody else have you thinking that bullshit. That you don't have to make a change. And you see the whole fucking earth is going through a change. The whole power structure is being dissolved. And it's like, well, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. Are you fucking kidding me? The world is in a retrograde state and you're not in your retrograde state. You think you're just going to keep doing what the fuck you want to do? You think you're going to keep exercising your free will and you don't have to tap into your true will? You think that's going to happen? Let me just keep doing the same shit I've been doing. Or it ain't going to hit you till we lose this war though. Exactly. Even here with me, I'm in Las Vegas. We get our water from Lake Mead, and Lake Mead is in a drought. Lake Mead is in a drought right now. You got wildfires burning up all types of lands, acres on acres on acres, and we call it global warming. We call it climate change. Climate change means the world is in retrograde. the fuck are y'all talking about? And y'all, as in the media, the propaganda. Climate change is the world is in a retrograde state. And if you don't get into your own personal retrograde state, you're going to suffer just as the world suffers. But the world suffers because it has to change. Because once we get over this suffering, the world is going to be different. The world is not going to be how it was before. We're going through this phase because the world or the earth is changing. Well, the world and the earth, the world as in the people, the earth as in the actual earth. Mother Earth is going through a spiritual phenomenon, making herself different. She will be different when all of this is said and done. Hopefully you are too. And with that, I bear peace. 93, 93, 93.